What is going on, y'all? Liv Moods here in Ball Arena for a very exciting time, which is the opening night for the Denver Nuggets happening tomorrow against OKC, who was the #1 seed in the Western Conference last season. This game will not be easy, but before I get into that, let's talk about my NBA hot takes for the season. We're going to start with hot, then we're going to go to hotter, and then we're going to go to hottest. Okay, here we go. We're starting off with, actually none of these are Nuggets related, but I will have a Nuggets hot take for you here in a second. My hot take for the season: the San Antonio Spurs will make the play-in, and Victor Wembanyama for Defensive Player of the Year and named an All-Star. Big year for Wemby coming up. I'm calling it now. Number 2, my hotter take: the Orlando Magic will be better and a higher seed than the New York Knicks. I'm not buying into the New York Knicks having the third shortest odds to win a title just because they acquired Karl Anthony Towns. They also lost some important pieces to their offense. There's going to be a little bit of a grace period, I think, that New York fans are going to need. I think it's going to be an adjustment for this team. I am not buying into them this season. And finally, my hottest take: the 76ers will not make the playoffs. I love Paul George. I wish Paul George would play. Paul George is always injured, and so is Joel Embiid. So I do not have high hopes for this aging roster. I think there's a lot of talent on this roster, but I'm not buying into them at all this season. Okay, let's get into the game. Let's get into the Nuggets taking on OKC. OKC was last year's #1 seed in the Western Conference. SGA was an MVP candidate with a lot of potential to do the same thing again this year. They added some pieces in the offseason to give them a little bit of that veteran presence that I think they were lacking, especially as they make a deep run in the playoffs. They're going to need those veterans on their team. No notable injuries for the Nuggets as we look into this game tomorrow night, but we do have an injury for OKC. Jalen Williams is a game-time decision, so not sure if we'll see him. I believe he's dealing with some ankle injuries, so we'll have to keep you posted there. We did hear from Michael Porter Jr. and Russell Westbrook, of course, both very excited about this matchup. We talked a little bit with Westbrook about facing his former team. He's not treating this game any differently. One thing we've talked about with Russell Westbrook's game is his ability to be competitive and excited every time he's on the floor, and that's exactly what he said. And PJ, looking forward to the game as well, very excited to start the season. Kind of the overarching theme here in talking with all three, those two, as well as head coach Malone, is that this preseason felt very long. They talked about the fact that they had 3 different mini camps, one before Abu Dhabi, one after Abu Dhabi, and then another very mini one after their preseason game against the Timberwolves. So it's been a long preseason. They're all just ready to get started. We did talk to Coach Malone, however, and we've got a little bit more there for you. He said that this game against OKC is going to require a lot of discipline by this Denver Nuggets team. We've got to work on turnovers. That's something I have talked about on my very show, tightening up those turnovers. He said, don't dribble into crowds, trust the pass. So we're going to see a lot of facilitating here, maybe from guys like Jamal Murray, Russell Westbrook with the second unit. Very excited to see what they can do from a facilitating perspective. You've got to force the Thunder to be a half-court team, Coach Malone said. So again, requires a lot of discipline. We know this. They were the #1 seed in the West for a reason, and the Western Conference is exceptionally competitive. We did get a chance to ask him a little bit about Peyton Watson as well, somebody that I have been very excited to see, and we may see him a little bit tomorrow night. We haven't seen him much in the preseason. Him being available, Coach Malone said he can do a lot of things that a lot of guys on our roster cannot do. He's very physical. He's very athletic. Very excited to get Peyton Watson back out there for tomorrow night's game. Hopefully we see a little taste of that off the bench. Finally, something that I observed, Christian Braun. I've talked a little bit about wanting him to improve his shot in the offseason. I think that, again, there's that upside with Christian Braun over Julian Strawther being a starter because he's got some defensive upside there. Want to see him work on his shot? Well, he was. He was one of the last players to leave the court, put up a lot of three-point shots. They looked really great, so hopefully we can see that translate when he is a starter for the Denver Nuggets for the first time tomorrow night against OKC. I've got a Nuggets hot take for you, and then we'll wrap with this. I do think, despite seeing CB improve his three-point shot right here on this very court, I think we'll see at some point in this season Julian Strawther getting starting minutes over CB. Right now, CB has a defensive upside that Julian Strawther does not have, but we also have Julian Strawther that is shooting exceptionally well with that volume three-point shooting that we know we're going to be lacking without KCP. So there's my hot take for the Nuggets. We may see Julian Strawther getting some starting minutes at some point this season. But again, very excited to see what this Denver Nuggets team does. Opening night against OKC, like Coach Malone said, they've got to stay disciplined. Hopefully they will. And hopefully it's a great night for the Denver Nuggets. See ya.